What's up, guys? Frank Macaluso here from Garageaholic. Welcome to the second to last episode of the E36 M54 twin turbo swap. Today we are going to be doing some wiring updates, finishing up some wiring things within the engine bay and the E36 itself. We're going to be doing the AC, installing the final tube. We're going to be vacuuming and pressurizing the system with R134A. We're going to be exercising that as well as the heat. And we're going to be installing the hood and the washer system to make sure that the washers work on the jets on the hood. And we will be doing our flashing with Castle Performance. We've done a lot of different flashes. I think we got it this time. And if we're lucky, we'll do a first drive. So stay tuned. First, let's start off with the air conditioning. We're going to take the suction line from the E36. It's got like this little lug on it. Where's the lug? There it is. We got like this little lug on it that has a special O-ring. It's got a special thread with an AN type 45-degree chamfer fitting. And this is the sensor from the E36. It's got 4 wires. And we need to plug that into the E36 harness and screw this guy on. But we don't want this entire AC line. We want to use the custom-made one that we made earlier. It's got a hole in here, or a little line there, or a little divot for the actual lug to be cut off of this guy and to be welded onto this. So let's do that really quick, and then we'll install this guy, and then we can install the line back in the car. Now what we need to do is create a wiring harness from the X20 to the various other components on the engine, like the coolant temp sensor, which I'm going to be replacing with a 4-wire sensor. 2 of those wires are going to go to the DME, which is what the original sensor did, and the other 2 wires are going to end up going right to the cluster for engine temperature indication. We're also going to be tapping into the oil pressure sensor. We're going to be going all the way over there to where the DME will be installed and hook up our power wires, our switched power, our EKP relay will live there as well, and there will be no CAS. So let's get started with just a quick wiring update and lay out our wires from the X20 harness over to where it's going to be. So let's take a look.
I gotta stop right there because I'm thinking that this is very boring for you. So let me just summarize what I'm doing here. I got all of these wires here in this little loom. This little loom is gonna end up going to my X20 connector, and it's gonna come across this bridge with the other wires. And a couple of those wires, these 3 in particular, two of these are for the coolant temp, and the other one is for the oil temp. They're going to come through and they're going to route underneath, and they're going to connect to these sensors. One being the oil pressure sensor, which is a single wire sensor, and the other one being the other part of this dual temperature sensor that will be replaced with an E36 M30 one. The rest of the wiring is actually fuel pump wiring, tack, and the start wire for the actual engine is coming through the X20 if I want to use the E36 key. So all that's going to end up going around here, and it's going to eliminate a lot of this jumbled mess, which I'm looking to get rid of as a result of this video. Here's the CAN wiring. This is the 3 wires for the CAN high, CAN low, and then our tack wire. Our positive and negative is already tapped into underneath the wheel, underneath the dash there, and we do need to add an additional relay. I'll show you that later, and it will be included in the wiring diagrams for the DME switch power. Since we're going to be using the key to start and we don't have to deal with EWS, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to bypass the green wire with a black stripe and the black wire with a yellow stripe. I'm gonna tie them together, basically bypassing EWS. It's a thick wire that goes from the key. Well, actually it supplies power to the key. When you turn the key, it goes through the EWS, bypasses it now, and it's gonna go right through the X20 into the X6011 harness, and then into the engine to start it up. So let's bypass that in the EWS right now.
Okay, now those two wires have been spliced. Let's take a look and see if I get voltage to the X20 pin 15 now.
With a multimeter hooked onto pin 18 and grounded to chassis, that if I put this key switch into the position 3 to start, I should get a momentary 12 volts only when I'm in start mode. And here we go. Starting, and take the key off. So now you know how to bypass EWS in any BMW E36, or in this case, N54 swapped M30. So I performed a vacuum leak check on the AC system yesterday just to quickly check to see if I can hold vacuum, and it didn't. Why? Because the low side from the evaporator over to the compressor had a leak in the weld that I had made. Why? Because it broke. The weld actually cracked. I don't know if you can see that little crack there, but that weld did break and it was leaking. So I'm gonna have to weld that back up. I'm gonna reinstall this and I will show you how to do a vacuum test on your AC system. Now that I got the AC low pressure line reinstalled, now it's time to evacuate the system once again. Okay, we got our high pressure side, which is red, hooked up. We have our low pressure side, which is blue, hooked up. The vacuum is hooked up to the gauges. And these are the gauges. You can see right here that it's reading 0 and reading 0, which basically means it's atmospheric. So when it goes to the right, that means it's going into the negative pressure, or maximum negative 30 millimeters of mercury. And the same thing on the high pressure side. So let's turn the vacuum pump on. Okay. All the valves are currently closed. That's why the gauges aren't reading anything. So now let's open this one. Okay, let's open this guy. Okay. Now we have to open these valves, because right now we only have suction to the tubings only. We don't have suction to here. So let's open this up. You can hear the pump. And we can do this one too. Okay. You can see the suction here. That's probably around 25. This one here is just about 28. So let it suck for a few minutes and evacuate all the moisture and humidity out of the system. And you know that there's humidity being sucked out of the system because you can see smoke. Can you see the smoke? There you go, you can see the smoke there. That is basically humidity being evacuated from the system. That is a good thing. That means that the system is holding suction. Now what we need to do is, after this sets for a couple of minutes, we need to tighten these guys up or turn the pump off, then just let it sit and see if it holds the levels. And if it doesn't, then we need to revisit and fix. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes. Let's turn the pump off and let's see if these guys hold. High pressure side looks good. Low pressure side looks like it's holding still too. Let's wait 10 minutes and we'll do this exact same measurement. Alright, so we have these seat adapters. This is the driver's side. That right there is for the seat belt. And this guy has a 4-bolt pattern to screw directly into the E36 chassis. These guys end up sitting on top like this. And this guy goes in the middle here for the the seat adjustment forward and backward. So I have to get these guys installed on the seat. I gotta get this guy installed on the car, and then when I'm done, then I can just install the whole seat assembly through the underside access of the bolts here. So it doesn't seem to be too difficult. So let's remove the seat belt from the actual donor seat. This is the seat belt assembly where the buckle goes into. 16 millimeter, I already got it loosened. Take that off. And this guy kind of comes right off there. And it's got a belt buckle connector as well. You need to remove that so you can reconnect it. And then this guy just basically gets screwed on back there. Okay? Doesn't seem too difficult. Let's bolt it up. We got the seat belt in, and now it's a matter of figuring out where the sliders are gonna go. The distance between the two holes, width-wise on the seat, is 13.5 inches, and since there's a plethora of holes here that you can mount to, we were able to easily figure out where those sliders are gonna end up getting mounted. Now the order of installation here is to mount the sliders onto the seat, then from the seat assembly onto this bracket, and then the bracket assembly with the seat into the car. So that's the easiest way to go about doing this, and that's how we're gonna end up going. On the bottom of the seat, there's 4 holes. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the bolt pattern for those is M8 by 1.25. You need to use a relatively short screw, and you need to have a bolt, rather. And you need to have a bolt that is that has a flange head that makes it easy to install, but not too wide where it doesn't fit inside of the groove of where these guys are gonna go. So this is actually a very good width. It'll go right in there, and then we'll install this right on the seat. The seat has been installed. Everything is basically set up. The width, the bars, the adjustment bar works. Everything's screwed in, everything's accessible. Seat belt there. Seat belt works, clamps in there. This whole module kind of sits in there, and it connects to the rest of the car for SRS system. The seat kind of moves. All right, so that's good. And on the back side, everything looks good here too. You can see the bolt there, the bolt there. Everything seems to be in order, and it looks like a pretty nice seat. The R100 is a nice looking seat. It really is. Looks good in there.
All right, so we've hit a couple of setbacks, as you can tell. I haven't posted a video in about 2 weeks. And the reason for that is because the tail end of any type of engine swap involves a lot of fine tuning. And every little issue to make your car perfect takes a long time. A lot of looking up the wiring diagrams, a lot of finalizing and fine tuning part placement, analyzing leaks. We have leaks in the AC system. I vacuumed the AC system, and I found that we do have leaks in the high pressure side. I had to replace the high pressure sensor, and now I'm working on the logic that controls not only the compressor from the E36 button to the compressor, but also how the pressure switch is going to interact to turn the compressor on and off when it's needed, and make sure that I don't have any clogs in the line. I think I'm going to need a new expansion valve in the AC system. So there's a lot of things that now we're starting to turn everything on, and we're starting to actuate everything and exercise everything that we need to fix and replace more parts. So that's really the stage that we're in right now, and the next episode will not be the last episode. It will be it'll be an episode that's dedicated to explaining all of how I'm fine-tuning all of these things and going through my mode of thinking, how to read these wiring diagrams to interpret, and getting rid of lights on the dash, like the SRS light, and resetting that code, and the automatic transmission light that's on the dash that we need to fake out because it's no longer an automatic transmission. And also, the engine is still in lint mode. I know that it's in lint mode because the throttle body is not opening enough to allow positive pressure into the intake manifold to then open the blow-off valves to allow for pressure to be built up. But let me tell you, the turbos work, and they whine, and they sound awesome. So there's still a lot that we still need to do here, fine-tuning wise, to get this car in perfect standing, and we're getting very close. I've increased my knowledge about this car tenfold over the last month, just working on all these items, and it's been a lot of fun. We still have CAS, but I have a couple of options. I'm working with Castle still on flashing for the CAS, and we also are working on an emulator solution as well, which does involve CAS and the start button, but it does prevent your engine from being in limp mode. So we haven't acquired that product yet from a potential sponsor, but we are working on that. So in the meantime, we're working on X20 wiring, engine interface wiring to not only the engine, but also to the instrument cluster and the rest of the controls. AC is in here, oil pressure switch, coolant temperature is going to be going through this, this cable here that goes into the oil pressure switch there. The coolant temperature switch is going to end up getting tapped into there. We're going to use a 4-wire coolant temperature switch. 2 wires are going to end up going to the DME. 2 wires are going to be going to the instrument cluster for indication. We have our AC compressor wiring kind of mocked up and figured out. And then finally, we need to clean up our wiring here in this back corner. And the reason it's still messy is because we have the CAS module here, but I'm going to move that CAS module inside temporarily so we can then finally clean this up. So having said all that, we have made a lot of good headway. I know I haven't posted a video in a couple weeks, and I'm sorry for that, but here's the next video. We will probably end up doing a couple more to really explain the fine-tuning that we're doing here and help you guys to understand if you want to make your car to behave and act exactly like a stock car but with a modern engine, these are the types of things you need to do. And it takes a long time, it takes a lot of hours in order to really hone in and fine-tune and perfect that, to make it actually act like it should in the engine, in the car. So having said that, thanks again for tuning in, guys. This has been a really good adventure, and the next couple of videos will not be the finale video, but it will be more detailed explanation of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Thanks a lot, guys. Take it easy.